What's up, everybody? Matt Maran here for the final weekly update, and not a video I ever wanted to make. A day I hoped would never come, but was worried would come someday, and this will be the last weekly update. So in this video, I'm going to cover the reasons why, as well as getting into a usual weekly update here one last time and covering all the car news here for this week. And so, yeah, as far as the updates, first I'll mention I will continue to be doing my usual weekly live streams here. Usually they'll be on Sundays. I'll let you guys know. Sometimes they'll be Saturdays, but I will continue to do those weekend things, and that will be a way where I can continue to talk about the car news and discuss that with you guys in those. So definitely join in on those. But as far as the weekly updates and why I have to end them now, so, I've been doing over 500 of these things, or over 10 years now, and it's never really grown too much, and it's just gotten to a point now where the views have gotten so low on them that I can't justify doing them anymore. And I've tried various things. I've improved the thumbnails in the past few years. I've upgraded to 4K for these videos, to try and increase the appeal, things like that. And nothing ever seemed to help, especially the past few years. It's just been tough, because I know a lot of you are just not excited about the future of cars, and so I'm assuming those of you who aren't watching these anymore are the ones who have left because of that. The people that aren't excited about electrification, the people that are upset about the higher prices of cars these days, and that's obviously not getting any better anytime soon. All of these factors, some people even more recently probably didn't like me talking about tariffs, and but this has been a long time coming. I even mentioned at the end of last year's final, year-end wrap-up that this might be the year that I have to end the weekly updates, and it just turns out that is the case. There's also been some new competitors, whether we're talking short-form stuff. There's a lot of people on TikTok doing little news clips. There's also people like, Doug's doing a new podcast that covers car news. There's just a lot of things that are eating into those views, and while no one does a weekly roundup like I do, I think there might be a good reason why. I know so many people are appreciative of the fact that I, do that, but it's never been a great idea from the very beginning, to be honest. News ages very quickly, and, anyone who's into car news probably has already seen most of this stuff if you're following it every day. And for the more casual people, that's just a much smaller niche, and, it's just really hard to, wait till Friday and have stuff still be appealing for a lot of people that are excited about this and have already seen it on Instagram or whatever throughout the course of the week. And so, I don't think it was a great recipe for success. And that's why they never really grew ever. They actually did the best early on whenever I was first doing them, 8 or 10 years ago. And it just seems like, again, as things have progressed and cars have gotten less exciting to many of you over the past 5 years in particular, that's where the viewership has really kind of dropped off here. And also, the car news space has also just kind of pushed me out, because I do straightforward titles and I don't do clickbait. Anyone that knows about automotive news on YouTube these days, it is just a majority of it is just complete garbage, clickbait, just lies, straight up inaccurate things, but they get huge views and people keep clicking on them. So these bad actors continue to put out these crappy videos, and it's just, sure, I'd love to be the beacon of truth in this sea of misinformation and BS that's out there, but again, it's not paying off with the views, and I can't keep doing these at the amount of views that they generate here. And as the famous saying goes, a lie can travel around the world before the truth can get its boots on. And that's just, in a modern media landscape like this, truth is not rewarded. Straightforward, non-deceptive titles are not rewarded. And that's just something I could never be okay with. Others are okay with that. They can live with that on their own. But for me, I just never felt good doing clickbait. And as a result, it really hurt, these videos, I think. And so that's, the bottom line as far as why this has just been a struggle. And also, I try to do other things like the little news clips that you saw the past few months to try and, boost the overall viewership of the amount of work I'm putting in, with those extra little videos. But those actually hurt the algorithm for the channel here. The views have been down for the channel, I think, partially as a result of that, because that hurts watch time. And everyone on YouTube knows you got to have high watch time to have your videos recommended. And if I get all these little 2-minute videos that people are watching, even if they watch them all the way through, that plummets the average view duration for a video on the channel. This is why everyone's doing long videos, and everyone wants you to stay till the end of every video, because that's how to succeed on YouTube here. And so these videos just took too much time. They usually took me 1 to 2 days of work, one full day if I was, it was a lighter news week, or I was really firing on all cylinders with being able to churn it out super fast. But usually it took me the better half of 1.5 to 2 days of work to do these. And even if it took just 1 day, it doesn't pay off. So I've actually never done this before, but I'm going to show you guys, just for full transparency, how much the past 3 weekly updates have made on the channel here. So as you can see, $73 last week, $65 the week before, and $97 was the best performing one here of the past month. And some have done better in the past. They've gotten a little over 100, but even this past one being about $100 or so, you divide that out over an 8-hour workday, you're talking about a $12 an hour pay. Like, I would make more money at basically a minimum wage job working for Thursday and Friday than I make on these weekly updates. And obviously I have the royalties from the 800 plus car reviews that I've done, and all the other stuff that gives me a base. So it's not like I'm living off of $100 on these every week, and a few other things from the reviews. There is some other stuff there, but it's just not a good investment of time, because the news videos don't get views after the first week. Versus car reviews, they might actually perform worse than the weekly update in a 1 week period, but they continue to get views. They're evergreen, and over their lifespan of some of these videos from 10 years ago are still getting views. They do generate a lot more money down the road, and so those, it's more worth my time to invest in the car reviews and to nix the weekly update before I nix car reviews if something's got to give, which unfortunately is the case here. And so. Yeah, I will still occasionally be doing car news stuff. So, if there is an embargo that I get info on ahead of time, and I can be one of the first to post something up, and it's something that I'm around and available for, and I can squeeze it in, I will still be doing that. Next week, I will be covering a bunch of these new Toyotas that have just come out. I'll be talking about here in a few minutes. I'll be covering those in person. I'll be, if I get sent to an auto show or something, I might still do some of those. So there will still be, some things here and there, but as far as the weekly updates go, there won't be anything like that. I mean, if there's something that I really want to get off my chest and I want to rant about, tariffs or something, I still may again put out a simple video on something like that, but again, just something I'm not going to be able to do here on a consistent basis. And so yeah, and the other thing you might be wondering, if I am clearing out Thursday and Friday, does that mean you can expect an additional car review or some other kind of content? And that's the other thing, is with YouTube being this roller coaster. I mean, I got hammered during the COVID times with, just plummeting viewership, plummeting earnings. And now with tariffs and stuff, this crazy car market we're going into, there's just a lot of volatility on YouTube. And again, my views have been in decline, like many of you know. I've talked about this many times in the past. That instead of doing more YouTube stuff, I'm going to still do 2 car reviews a week, maybe 3, if I can squeeze it in. But instead, I've decided to basically go part-time on YouTube. Again, still doing those reviews every week. I'm not going anywhere, but I have now started contributing to CarBuzz, a website, and just writing articles. I've always actually really enjoyed writing, and so I'm excited for that stability and the idea of not having all my eggs in one basket, because I still basically just make a living off of YouTube. I don't have, a merch line that's super successful. I don't have all these other things going, and so, that was something I wanted the stability. So I'm writing articles for CarBuzz, and I will be using those 2 days at the end of the week for doing that primarily. And the first article actually just got published this week. It's in the description. There's a link to it if you'd like to check that out. It's about the most unreliable engines that people still love despite their flaws. But anyway, so yeah, that's something to keep an eye out for, is if you enjoy my take on cars beyond the reviews, check out my writing there on CarBuzz here in the future. Yeah, so I'm hoping that extra stability kind of, allows me to ride the waves of YouTube better. Just from a mental health standpoint, it's really been hell, honestly, as far as just the ups and the downs. And again, putting out every weekly update, hoping that people will click and hoping that people will watch and hoping that the ad rates are good, even, despite the views, and it's not a great place to be in. And again, especially when that's your only source of revenue and income, it's tough, especially whenever, again, the rug gets pulled out from you like it has been here in the past month or two. So, anyway, I do want to just thank so many of you that supported these for a decade or more. I know there's so many of you that have been around, the channel here for so long. And I know so many of you also incorporate this into your, Friday routine or your weekend routine and really look forward to these. And I am so sorry that I'm letting some of you down with that. Again, it's just something that, I can't keep earning minimum wage doing these. It's just something I can't afford to do. And so I hope all of you can understand. And if someday things get better and I feel like there's a future for these, never say never, maybe someday they'll come back. But I don't envision that happening, just again, with the way clickbait reigns supreme and just the garbage that, my stuff can't seem to rise above. And so anyway, let's get into the final news here of this week. So, first off, Mopar insiders here are reporting that their sources claim that Dodge is getting rid of the entry-level RT trim of the Charger EV for the 2026 model year, supposedly due to low sales, which is no surprise. I think anyone excited about these obviously wanted the top version anyway. The Scat Packs of the RTs just, didn't have a lot of appeal, I suppose, although I still thought they were great. I drove it and really liked it, but there's about 3,500 of them sitting on dealer lots right now, so that kind of explains that. And Dodge also, for 2026, it sounds like they're going to be dropping the stage kit thing. So with the Scat Packs, previously they were like, okay, well, to get the top horsepower, you got to do Scat Pack Stage 2. And now there's none of that anymore. It's just going to be supposedly 670 horsepower for all Scat Packs, no stage stuff anymore, which I think, can make sense and certainly simplifies things. And also that 2026 Scat Pack is also rumored to get a lower price tag. And the Track Pack that previously was standard will now be optional. Again, this is all according to Mopar insiders. And so that'll help lower the price there as well, if that's true. But yeah, it sounds like if you're remotely open to a Charger EV, especially the RT version, there's some really good deals out there to be had. Just make sure you check your insurance quotes first, because they are going to be expensive to insure. But, at least as far as the monthly payments, it sounds like if you want to lease one of these things, there's some real good lease deals for them out there. So, yeah, sad to see, the RT version go, but, again, hopefully at least the gas-powered version's coming online this year, increase the appeal here, and, it's something that helps this new generation of Charger to succeed. And some other bad news for Stellantis, though. They announced another delay for the Ram REV and the Ramcharger here. So the Ramcharger was still supposed to arrive this year, and, that seems to have some hype and people that actually are really excited about the Ramcharger version, but Ram says they need to extend the quality validation period, which will push back the launch till the first quarter of 2026. And this is good though, because there have been some issues with the regular Rams, so being able to make sure they fully bake this one, I think, is important, and so I think this is good news, really. They also are saying that the fully electric REV version has now been pushed back to the summer of 2027 due to slowing consumer demand for half-ton BEV pickups, according to a Stellantis spokeswoman that spoke to Crane's Detroit Business. And so that means it'll be a 2028 model year vehicle, which that one, at that point, I feel like they're going to be due for a new generation of the Ram 1500 in general. And so launching this towards the tail end of the life cycle with, a stale interior, stale styling, I don't know how well that's going to do. Maybe they will just scrap it on this current generation and just save it for a next gen or something. I don't know. So once again, though, this does make sense, especially, delaying the battery electric one. Obviously, I'm sure Ford and GM are very happy because they're still selling theirs, even if they're not selling in huge numbers. At least they don't have to worry about any competition from Ram now. And interesting to hear that. Another EV that's still a long ways off is the new electric Golf GTI, but this week Volkswagen's CEO spoke with Auto Express about it a little bit here, saying, at the end of the decade, we will bring an electric Golf GTI, and that will be a monster car. I'm very happy with the progress. It's cool. You can make it exciting. It has to be exciting. It has to be authentic. If we bring a GTI, it has to be a true GTI. But this seems a little odd because GTIs have never been monsters. fun cars for sure, but, unless you're talking about an insanely modified one, I don't think anyone considers a GTI to be a monster of a car. Like, I don't think anyone's ever said that before in the history of GTIs. So, big power is not the way to fun with the GTI, and it never has been, at least, again, from the factory. And so to me, a true GTI would still have like 250 horsepower, maybe 300 if we're talking about the extra weight you have to compensate for here. But I don't know. He does say it'll continue to be front-wheel drive, though, and that an all-wheel drive electric Golf R is actually coming, which is the first time we've gotten confirmation of that. But that is something he said they're doing. And he also talked about the first electric GTI to come, which is going to be the ID2 GTI that we probably won't get here in the States. But when that arrives sometime next year, he added that we've driven a few prototypes on the new setup, and it's mind-blowing. What about the sound? What about the total feel, the handling, and so on? It can be done. In regards to, I'm assuming, a conversation about, naysayers or just people that, aren't excited about this. I think, they probably are, I'm hoping, copying Hyundai with the Ioniq 5N and being like, look, like, we can have some fun with this. Like, let's do these sounds and the feel and all that. And so we'll see how they end up playing it, but it sounds like they got some interesting and fun stuff cooking up here. And it sounds like there's no signs of them backing down with that either. It will be electric, and sounds like hopefully it'll be pretty awesome. I just, again, hope it doesn't go overboard and it doesn't get super expensive and super bloated and super overcomplicated. But we'll have to wait and see. So anyway, interesting to hear that. And 2 months ago, the Japanese reveal had happened for the new Toyota CHR, the BZ4X, and some other stuff like the RZ. And I covered all that, a couple months ago. But now this week we got more info on the US versions, as well as a few other surprises here from Toyota. So I will also be at Toyota's headquarters next week covering many of these vehicles in person. So stay tuned for that if you want to, see a more in-depth look at them. But anyway, here's the highlights in the meantime. So first, we have the new CHR. It has returned here, coming to America, and it will be all electric. So it's on the same ETNGA platform that all these electric Toyotas are using, and it shares a lot with the new BZ, which I'll cover next. But for comparison, the new CHR is bigger as well. It's only about 3 inches shorter than a RAV4 now, and almost more like a coupe version of the BZ in a way. It's also a lot faster than the old one too, getting a dual motor all-wheel drive setup as standard that gives it 338 horsepower and a 0 to 60 time of around 5 seconds. So it's properly sporty, and it's powered by a 74.7 kilowatt hour battery that can do 290 miles of range and do a 10% to 80% charge in 30 minutes. It'll get the NACS port, and inside it gets a 14-inch touchscreen as standard, the same one we've seen in Lexus models, and a smaller driver display from the BZ. There's no pricing for it yet, but expect it to be much more expensive than the old CHR, which didn't even have all-wheel drive. So if it starts under 35 grand for this, I'd be surprised. Honestly, it sounds like they're positioning this as a sportier, like slightly upmarket version of the BZ even. So, it might even be more expensive than that. We'll see. But for right now, Toyota is only saying it's going to arrive in 2026 sometime, but they didn't get any more specific than that. But it looks great, though, and I'm excited for it, and so cool to see that. Toyota has also revealed the details of the US version of the BZ4X. And first off, it's no longer called the BZ4X. It's simply now called the BZ, which I'm not sure is any better, honestly. But, at least there's two less characters to remember there. But let me know what you think about the change there in the comments below. A bigger change is the much better range and the power that these now have. So the base one gets smaller improvements, going from 201 horsepower to 221 horsepower for the front-wheel drive versions, and the only entry-level one here is going to be getting a 57.7 kilowatt-hour battery that takes range up to 236 miles. So not a big improvement there, but the biggest improvements here are these other trims, with the next level up and the trim structure here upgrading you to the 74.7 kilowatt-hour battery. And with small wheels, these will do an impressive 314 miles of range now, way better than before. And also impressive are the all-wheel drive versions now get 338 horsepower, just like that CHR, which is 50% more power than the old all-wheel drive BZ4X with like 214 horsepower. And with a 4.9 second 0 to 62 mile per hour time, I mean, this is, again, going to be really quick. Like, that's faster than RAV4 Prime. So really cool stuff. And these ones all run the big battery and do between 278 and 288 miles of range, so still pretty good. And again, these all will go from 10% to 80% in 30 minutes, thanks to 150 kilowatt charging. And these also get the NACS port, and also will have plug-in charge capability built in for easier, payment and all that without having to have a bunch of different apps. And as far as styling, it gets a new front end and the option for painted cladding now, since the plastic cladding was a bit more polarizing, I think. And inside, it's nearly identical to the CHR with the 14-inch Lexus screen and a redesigned center console. And there's no word on pricing yet for this one either, but it'll probably be around 40 grand or so to start. And these will be arriving at dealers a lot sooner than the CHR. This, they say, coming sometime in the second half of 2025, actually. So hopefully, it helps the BZ to sell better. I mean, spec-wise, they are, right up there with everybody else now. Charging still not as fast as the Hyundais, but still, really, top-notch stuff there. And I'm very excited to test out these, 5 seconds or to 60 times in these things. Should actually be pretty fun. But there's one other new Toyota that the rest of the world hasn't seen before this week, and that is the new BZ Woodland. So although it sounds just like a trim of the BZ and looks like that up front, this is actually an entirely different vehicle based on the new Subaru Trailseeker I covered at the New York Auto Show a couple of weeks ago. And so, yes, this is definitely confusing with this name. And it's extra confusing because there's other Toyotas with a Woodland trim, which does just basically give you like different wheels and a roof rack and stuff. So in Japan, it's actually just as bad, because in their market it's going to be called the BZ4X Touring, which also sounds like it'd be a trim level. I don't know why everyone agreed like making these confusing names was a good idea. But I'm assuming this will, at least for the US version, play out kind of like the Subaru B9 Tribeca, and it's like, why are you having the B9 part? Just drop it. And they did. I think, we'll eventually just see this called the Toyota Woodland, as long as they can sift through the confusion at the dealer level as far as people being like, I want the Woodland. They're like, the Woodland what? The actual model or a Woodland of something else? Like, it just, what's wrong with a new name? There's so many woodsy names like that they can pick from. There's historical Toyota names they could have used in the past. I mean, they could have even called this, the All-Track, or, there's so many things. But anyway, I won't go on a rant about that. But anyway, if you saw my coverage of the Subaru Trailseeker at the New York Auto Show, then you basically know most of everything you need to know about this vehicle already here. It's the same vehicle with just a Toyota nose. And it looks great, though. I think actually this version looks a little bit better, but it does mandate the cladding. You can't get painted cladding on this one, unfortunately. Maybe that'll come eventually, but I think it looks great. And it's about 6 inches longer than the regular BZ, and does get more power, 375 horsepower in these to be exact, which in the Subaru they claim a 4.4 seconds or to 60 time. And I don't know if Toyota's going to claim the same, but probably will. And at that point, I think that's at least as fast as Supra, at least as far as official claims goes. I mean, we're talking seriously quick here, which is wild. And so these all run a 74.7 kilowatt hour battery as well. And in this application, that does 260 miles of range due to, of course, that larger size and the extra power. And it too takes 30 minutes to go from 10% to 80% through its NACS port. And inside, it's the same up front as a regular BZ, but the back seat and the cargo space should be better, and room here. And so there's no pricing for this one yet either, but it'll arrive, they say, by early 2026 for this one. And a fun touch for GR86 fans is that they're actually planning on offering it in Trueno Blue, is one of the colors from the GR86, which is cool. And so anyway, yeah, but I actually think I'm glad to see Toyota filling out their EV lineup here. And, this kind of illustrates the lag between what, the public sentiment is and what actually gets put onto the streets. Toyota was highly criticized a few years back for being slow with adopting EVs and not transitioning fast enough. And I think they were like, okay, we need to ramp this up. We need to, do this quicker and, do a bunch of these. And so they did, but that took 3 or 4 years, and now we're seeing these things here by the end of this year, early next year. That shows just how long it takes to react to market changes. And now they're launching all these things in a time when EVs probably aren't the hottest thing. They didn't know that, though, and this is why, again, pandering to an administration or pandering to, a sentiment at the moment, is really tricky, because then you could come out, with some flat-footed stuff, so it's so hard, trying to plan for the future and planning down the road. Obviously, again, I think everything is going in the electric direction anyway, so these are good to have, and I think hopefully it'll be great new entries here for Toyota. But it's not the best timing, I'd say, as far as now we got all these great EV products from Toyota. Right whenever there's less incentives to have these things around here, and tax credit probably going away sooner or later and all that. So anyway, but very interesting to see all those. Toyota has also begun teasing what I'm pretty sure is the 2026 RAV4, and from the teasers it's hard to tell too much here yet, but you can see we are getting some teasers here, and it appears to be more chiseled and have bigger headlights, but that's about all we can tell so far. We also get a glimpse of the interior though, which does look pretty cool, but does appear to be losing at least some of its HVAC controls, because it looks like heated and cooled seat controls are there on the screen, and there still seems to be some buttons in the cabin though, so we'll see exactly what we get here, but we won't have much longer to wait for this, because the full reveal is happening on May 20th, so just next week, and so stay tuned for more coverage on that. And for the last little bit of Toyota news here, this year's exclusive TRD Pro color is going to be called this tealish blue color called Wave Maker, and it'll arrive for 4Runner, Tacoma, Tundra, and Sequoia this fall, and a really fun color, and so really cool to see that for this year's TRD Pros. Also, GMC has an update this week for the Hummer EV for the 2026 model year, and the biggest change is that the truck version gets another 160 horsepower for a total now of 1,160 horsepower, thanks to optimization of software and propulsion calibration. So that drops the 0 to 60 power time by a couple of milliseconds here, now to 2.8 seconds for the 0 to 60 for this 9,000 pound behemoth, which is a terrifying thought, to be completely honest, that people are able to do this without any additional certification. But it does help them to keep up with the new quad motor Rivian and the Cybertruck, Cyber Beast version, whatever they call it, with those, again, doing very similar, and actually I think the Rivian faster 0 to 60 times. But I don't know, why do we have this like horsepower war among trucks, electric trucks? It just seems bizarre. And I don't know why any of them need to be that fast. But anyway, another change here to both the truck and the SUV versions is a new limited edition, limited production version called the Carbon Fiber Edition, with various bits of black and carbon fiber trim on that one. And they didn't say how many of those they plan to make, but it will be limited supposedly. And there's also a revised suspension for 2026 here for better ride quality, and a new King Crab mode that moves the rear wheels even faster than regular crab walk. I don't know why they needed to move faster, but I guess for some low-speed off-roading situations or something, they needed to have it react faster. And that component, that little new feature, will actually be rolled out over the air to existing Hummer EV owners as well. And there's also a couple new colors available here for 2026. And there's no updated pricing yet for these, but they'll be coming later this year. And so, anyway... interesting to see that. Now, Mitsubishi has some more interesting news of their own. They've announced that a new generation of the Eclipse Cross is coming here. Not something I think a whole lot of people were wanting, but it is coming in September, and it'll be fully electric for its second generation, they've revealed, sharing underpinnings with the Renault Scenic E-Tech. That is available in Europe, and it's going to be built in France alongside that vehicle. So as a result, I don't think we'll be getting this new Eclipse Cross here in the US. So it may actually leave our market here, or just they might sell the old gas version for a while longer. I don't know. But again, with all this stuff possibly still being tariffed, we'll see what happens, with future deals or lack thereof. But, maybe Eclipse Cross goes away, maybe it doesn't, but I don't think we're going to get this electric version here most likely. But I don't think too many people are going to be sad about that anyway. For people who are, wanting an electric Mitsubishi, I did cover last week the new Nissan Leaf that's coming out this summer is going to be transformed into a Mitsubishi version. I believe that's coming next year and will be the first electric Mitsubishi. I don't think they've announced a name for that yet, but there will be that one, at least for us here, they've committed to. And they've also committed, Mitsubishi said, to one new product every year from 2026 on. So I guess this electric thing's next year. And then we'll maybe finally, as we get towards the 2030s, get replacements for all these other very dated products in the lineup, assuming they make it that long here in the States. We'll see. But anyway, interesting to hear that. And the thing that many enthusiasts have been asking for is finally happening here. A hybrid vehicle with a manual transmission once again. Following up on the, Honda CRZ and others of the past. But it's not coming from Honda, surprisingly, or Toyota or any other company you're likely to guess. It's Fiat. So they're busy making a gas conversion or gas version of the 500e because while 500e sold super well when it first came out, it has since dropped off with its demand pretty sharply. They've had to pause production a bunch. And so they see that they've reached the limit of how many people can buy an electric one, it seems, and now they're going to do this gas one. And so they've always, I guess, offered manuals with these, and they aren't planning on stopping now, which is actually surprising. They could have completely just done an automatic version. I don't think anyone would have batted an eye, but they're doing a manual here. So you can see it pictured there. They've shown it off officially, and we don't have any confirmed details on it other than, the presence of the manual here. But Motor One Italy claims it'll get a 1-liter mild hybrid 3-cylinder that makes just 70 horsepower. I don't even think it's turbocharged. 70 horsepower. So you're really going to have to work that new 6-speed manual as hard as you possibly can to wring out 70 horsepower. Hopefully it's a good shifting manual because you'll be using it a lot. And so anyway, obviously this isn't the hybrid manual that enthusiasts were hoping for, but it's a start, and it shows that it can be done in the modern era. Even if it is a mild hybrid, still is something. And, I really hope we do see more hybrid manuals in the future. We'll see. There's no word on whether this gas version of the Fiat 500 is going to come to the States. My guess, though, with 70 horsepower, is that it's not going to come here. But we'll have to see. They've brought the 500e version here, despite, the better judgment would suggest probably not bringing it here. They've decided to bring that. So it's also possible. We'll have to see. Unfortunately, don't get your hopes up for any kind of Abarth version of this new gas-powered 500 because it sounds like their space restrictions are a lot tighter on this electric one, and fitting in this little engine was possible, but doing a sportier version apparently isn't possible to get the amount of power they would expect out of an Abarth version. So Abarth is staying strictly electric. They do have an electric Abarth, 500 over in Europe. I don't know if we'll ever get that here in the States, but don't expect any kind of gas Abarth is the bottom line here. But anyway, still fun to see that, and the electric one's still great too. I own one, and I still really have been enjoying it here the past few months. And but yeah, so happy to see that hopefully the 500 sticks around and continues to thrive with that gas version. And on the polar opposite end of the Italian car spectrum here, Tomaso has revealed the production version of the P72 after revealing a concept 6 years ago. And man, what a gorgeous car. I mean, this thing really floored me in a way that I haven't been floored in a while as far as new car styling. It's beautiful, and beautiful inside as well. Not a single screen in sight, and a beautiful manual shifter here. I'm not sure how they'll include the federally mandated backup camera, though, just because I believe these are going to be street legal in America, and that's required for a street legal vehicle, so maybe they're going to put it in the rearview mirror. I don't know, but just the only question I have there. But otherwise, I'm very happy to see this being as simple as it is. Under the skin, it's also impressive with a single piece of carbon fiber for the monocoque, including the front and rear subframes. Like, it's all one entire piece with nothing else added, which they say sets a new benchmark, according to them, for structural purity. Also helping the handling is a manually adjustable pushrod suspension, and powering it is an American V8, just like the old Di Tomaso. Although this time it's the Ford 5-liter Coyote V8 that's been supercharged to make 700 horsepower and 604 pound-feet of torque, and was developed exclusively, they say, for this vehicle, but that might just be marketing speak because, it's probably an off-the-shelf supercharger, probably, nothing special beyond just, what you see on other 700 horsepower supercharged Coyote V8s. Maybe not. We'll see. But, I wouldn't expect any kind of brilliance as far as the powertrain beyond, the brilliance of the Coyote V8 already, which is a fantastic motor and, again, fits with the history of the company. So, I think that's actually the perfect way to go about it. But there's also no performance numbers given because they say the car isn't about top speed dominance. And I mean, it's rolling art, honestly. It's going to sound very good, and I'm sure it'll be still fun to drive. But man, yeah, what a gorgeous car. There's no word on pricing. I'm sure it'll be millions or how many of these they're going to make. But they say deliveries will start later this year, so it's actually coming here, relatively soon. And I'm sure that whatever they charge for it, there's going to be a mile-long line of people wanting these, and rightly so. I mean, that is exactly, I think, what a lot of people have been wanting is something like this. Back to basics, beautiful, still fun and fast, but simple, manual. I think they've actually nailed this, and really great to see that. And that's very fitting to be the last car that I cover in the weekly update is gorgeous car like that. For the last news story here, though, Aston Martin and Apple have actually rolled out together the new generation of CarPlay called CarPlay Ultra. And as you can see, it spreads CarPlay to the gauge cluster using Apple fonts and graphics, but Aston says that it's still consistent with the brand's unique design philosophy and remains instantly recognizable as Aston Martin. Although I'm not convinced it looks as cool as Aston Martin's own gauges, but I'm happy for Aston that, they're going to be the premier partner for this. There's different themes and ways to customize it, though, and you can now use Siri to do car things like change the climate, the radio, or even drive modes. And there's also ways to tap into all the other, vehicle data there in CarPlay now. And Aston and others will still retain switches and other ways of controlling these things, though, as well, so you don't have to, have your phone. And if you don't have your phone or you don't have CarPlay, you don't have Apple, I mean, it's still obviously going to have all the usual stuff, which I detailed in my Aston Vantage review not too long ago. That's a great infotainment system on its own. That all still is going to be functioning normally. Just, the option to add this in is a nice touch, I suppose. And it'll first come to the Aston Martin Vantage, Vanquish, DB12, and DBX as standard on all new orders starting this week. And existing owners of these vehicles for this, newest generation of them will get the option to bring in their car to the dealer to have a software update applied to get this as well if they want. And if you're not fortunate enough to own an Aston Martin, the next brands, according to Apple, will be Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis, although there's no word on when they'll get it, but it's very easy to imagine, with those double 12.3-inch screens they have and those curved displays on the Hyundais and the Genesis especially, having that, swapped over to CarPlay, I think is a very easy and natural integration. So I'm sure that'll come fairly soon, but we'll have to see. And lastly, I want to thank all of you that are members of the Maran Motoring Club. So we did have one new member that joined on their own, actually. So a big thank you to Holden Caldwell. I really appreciate your support here of the channel. I hope you're enjoying the membership perks so far, and I look forward to chatting with you if you can make it to the live stream where those members get that priority answering. And I also want to thank Lonswath, Sean Brewer, and Linda Hamill for gifting memberships during last week's live stream. And I thank you all so much for your generosity. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure all those members that were able to either rejoin or join also really appreciate your generosity as well. So thank you so much for that support. And I also want to give a big welcome here to the new members, including Motorly Sport, VJ Masonette, Toyota Chris Wisconsin, Brandon Rost, Cooper Bell, and 2 shots of vodka. The reference is not wasted on me. Best username. Love that. So anyway, I hope you're all enjoying the membership perks so far, and I look forward to chatting with those of you who can make it to, again, Sunday's live stream, where those members always do get that priority answering. And I'm, looking forward to, again, continuing to chat with all of you. And I'm, hopefully looking forward to your support still with the memberships and all the other perks that come with being a member. That will all still continue here as well. And for anyone else who'd like to join, become a member, there's always join buttons here on the video page, on the channel page, and a link in the description. And before I go, I just want to do one final toast, because that was something that I, have done in the past in these weekly updates I know many of you enjoyed. So a final toast here. Thank you all so much once again. I know for many of you too, you only watched weekly updates and you didn't watch other videos on the channel, which I completely understand, but that also is why the weekly updates kind of hurt the channel, because when people turn down recommendations, it's not great for the other videos. But so this is also a send off to those of you who unfortunately might not watch the channel anymore. I completely understand. I hope you do stick around, but for those that, aren't interested in car reviews or anything else that I post outside of the news, this is also a thank you and a farewell to you for your support. And for everyone else, stay tuned. Maybe in the live streams here, we will do some cheers, and maybe we'll do a little bit of drinking in the live stream in the future as well. I know that's something people have requested, so maybe something we'll do in the future. So hopefully not the last time you'll see me with a whiskey glass here, because I can't do it during the reviews. But anyway, cheers. Thank you all so much once again for all your support all these years. It truly is, it always blew me away whenever people would say, this is what I look forward to every Friday. This is, something that I really enjoy. And I'm sorry that I can't continue to do these. But thank you all so much. I'm looking forward to hearing all your feedback in the comments below. Please also continue to give a like and subscribe to keep all the other videos coming here on the channel, especially if you're someone who's not subscribed already. Definitely make sure you're subscribed so you don't, fall out of the loop too much if you are curious about, what else I'm up to here with the reviews and whatnot. But anyway, thank you all so much. Cheers to a great 10-year plus 500 plus video run here. It's been a good run. Yeah, maybe someday they'll return, but in the meantime, cheers and take care.